100 yards, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit onto the Parkway, A312. Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway. Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile. In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway Interchange, take the second exit onto the M4 Slip Road to Heathrow Airport, M25.
because of his courage in politics, but also because of the extraordinary way he speaks. Those great speeches he made at Labour conferences and elsewhere, it was a bit like watching a great pianist playing around with a piece of music. You get the script in front of you, and he would have about 5 or 6 sentences on either side of every sentence in the speech, where he was basically just riffing on the speech and playing with the words.
Exit the roundabout onto the slip road.
And it was extraordinary to see.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
There's a couple coming up very, very soon. Meanwhile, you are indeed listening to Andrew Marr on LBC, and Amelia Cox has the headlines.
Ukraine's President Zelensky says he's ready to swap Russian prisoners of war in exchange for the safety of those left in Mariupol. The Ukrainian commander says he believes troops have just hours left and the city could fall imminently. Martina Navratilova has told LBC Wimbledon's decision to ban Russian and Belarusian players is wrong. Speaking on Tonight with Andrew Marr, the 18-time Grand Slam winner says it's devastating for the athletes when it's not their fault. Sir Keir Starmer has accused Boris Johnson of blaming everyone else after being fired.
Continue on M4 for 3 miles.
The Labour leader says the Prime Minister is apologising for the cameras only. LBC weather, showers easing to leave a mostly dry night, lows of 2 degrees.
This is LBC. YouMove is the UK's #1 clinically...
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4. Keep right to stay on M4. Continue on M4 for 2 miles. quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4. Keep right to stay on M4.
Time and the destruction of that. So comfort me that even in the direst circumstances, things are not always as bad as they appear.
Let me ask you about the left, because you had these titanic struggles against militant tendency. Where are they now in your day? And Keir Starmer has had the Corbynista phenomenon. Prime Minister calls him a Corbynista in a smart Islington suit, which I don't think fools very many people. But
well, I thought it was a bit pathetic. I did hear that on the newscasts afterwards.
Well, Oliver Dowden, the Tory chairman, has written to Sir Keir asking him to apologise for something he said in the House of Commons today. And he said, while you're doing it, you might also take your chance to apologise for your support for Jeremy Corbyn, who you campaigned to make Prime Minister, and in whose shadow cabinet you served for 1,565 days. You were content to serve his top team, regardless of his history.
In 2 miles, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
Apologise for that and disown your time serving a leader many have called a Kremlin sympathiser. Now, you were no fan of Jeremy Corbyn when he was leader, and you said some fairly juicy things about him, I recall, at the time. Do you think the Labour Party is better with him out of the party? He's been talking today, Jeremy Corbyn, about setting up his own party, or inside the Labour Party?
He's transgressed against the rules, and the decision to exclude him from the Labour Party was taken by the National Executive Committee that is obliged to apply the rules, and in the judgment of the leader of the Labour Party, which has to be respected in this case. So in those terms, it's idle to speculate on whether Jeremy should be in or out. I think that the remedy lies in his hands.
But come on, Neil, you know in your bones it's better for the Labour Party for him to be outside, don't you?
Well, if he didn't say to me as leader that he withdrew the remarks in which he heavily qualified his apology for alleged anti-Semitism, then he would stay outside. So it's as straightforward as that. In the end, a leader, and we're talking about leadership when we talk about Boris Johnson too, a leader must operate according to a code of ethics. Not just the rule book, but the human interpretation of a free person. The leader of a democratic party must apply those rules.
Let me ask you about another former colleague, somebody who is not in the House of Commons at the moment, which is Ed Balls, because we have this by-elections of old. We have a very, very interesting by-election coming up in Wakefield, which voted to leave by 66% of the Brexit referendum, Red Wall seat, about 3,500 Tory members.
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
And there is comment about, but I know that this is it's a very interesting sort of marital issue too, and you know all about marital issues, because Yvette Cooper is doing very, very well, and she might not welcome her husband shouldering his way back into the Commons.
Exit at junction 6.
Making his own decision. Yeah. And she would respect that utterly and uphold it.
Because politics has changed an awful lot. I mean, you would entertain...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Tuns Lane, A355.
Terrifically.
And so far, and he does seem to be in many ways a bigger national figure after leaving politics for a time than he was before he left, and therefore he'd be a big asset for the Labour Party back inside the Commons.
Oh, I'm certain that that's the case. He's a man of very considerable talent. And I'm not just talking as a politician. He's a great economic analyst. There's no question about that. He's got real fluency and communicate ideas. So he'd be terrific. But first of all, he must make the decision, only he can make it, about whether he should run or not. Secondly, he would be subjected to a thoroughgoing democratic contest. And so if he did become the candidate, it wouldn't be because he'd been shifted in like some chess piece or parachuted. It would be because he'd earned the support and admiration of the Wakefield Party on his merits. So it's up to Ed. I'd welcome him in the House of Commons from anywhere, but it's up to him.
Exit the roundabout onto Tuns Lane.
Or the next general election, or never.
Do by-elections matter?
In a quarter of a mile, slight left towards Sippenham Lane.
The party that wins them, from any perspective, they're great morale boosters. They can also be indications of the way in which politics is going, but they can't be relied upon as absolutely steadfast, make no mistake pointers to the future, as I can tell you on the basis of experience, some of it joyous, some of it utterly miserable.
Now, I've got here, I must ask you to tell me the truth about a story I was told about you, which was, I think, the 92 election. Very, very frustrating. I was following you at the time and all the rest of it. And you were...
Slight left towards Sippenham Lane.
And I was told that when the results came out, you were so angry you punched the wall. And then the policeman said, it could be worse. It could be worse. Don't worry, Mr. Kinnock. And you said, how could it be worse? In a somewhat menacing way. And he said... You can't remember.
Continue for 1.5 miles.
Well, I was told you.
Well, yes, all right. I do, yes. When you mention it now, I can actually see the policeman in front of me. And sometimes, of course, when you're getting guards like that, no matter how much you try to resist it, having guards, because I always thought they'd gotten away, but as they explained to me, the reason that we give you armed guards, Mr. Kinnock, is because if we didn't and something happened, we'd get the blame. So, okay, fine, I completely understood that from the outset, way back. But I do remember it now. You said, and it can be the case, not invariably, but it can be the case that those special branch guys, very capable men, get drawn into becoming something approximating to friends over the intensity of the period of the campaign. And I actually said to him, he did say to me, in the old days they would cut your head off. And I said...
Good, I'm glad the story's true.
They could have bloody tried. That's what I said. In which case he and the other policemen in the room laughed. They were the only ones laughing, I have to tell you.
Neil, I've had such joy talking to you. I don't know if you can stay after the break or not, but for now, thank you very much indeed. If you want to hear more of Lord Kinnock, he's going to appear on Ian Dale's All Talk podcast, which comes out next Wednesday in a 2-hour special episode. Several sentences, going to get into that. Now, coming up, we'll be getting an update from a guest who was on the show a few weeks ago, Vladimir Kara-Murza, someone I described as a hero of mine earlier on. He's a Russian politician who, since appearing on the show with me, has been arrested by Vladimir Putin. The time is 6:45.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
President Zelensky said today that Ukraine would have won the war already if it had been properly supplied with weapons. Is it now too late?
Ian Dale on LBC.
Hello, this is Andy from Network Rail with some important news if you're travelling over the May bank holiday weekend, so please keep listening. Most of the rail network remains open. However, some train services will be affected as we make improvements to the railway. The affected days are from Saturday the 30th of April to Monday the 2nd of May. To keep your plans on track, please check before you travel at nationalrail.co.uk/MayBH. Thank you.
Our pledge is to put more money in the public's pocket.
What about my household bills?
Feeling that cost of living crunch? Lebara are here to help. 15 gigabytes of data, EU roaming included, and no annual price rises. All for just £10 a month. Lebara. More for less. Change or cancel anytime. Rated excellent on Trustpilot. Buy now at lebara.co.uk. Terms apply.
This is what Monday feels like when you find a great new job at read.co.uk. Fluffy, adorable, majestic. So cute you just want to give a little scratch under the chinny chin chin. Oh, I never knew Monday could be so sweet. Love Mondays again. Find a job that'll get you purring at read.co.uk.
Tonight with Andrew Marr on LBC.
And the time is 6:47 and a bit. With me in the studio still is Lord Kinnock, I'm delighted to say. Neil, let me ask you a little bit about Keir Starmer himself, because I said earlier on he needed all sorts of different talents. It's an almost impossible job being leader of the opposition. He has so much to do. Do you think, I'm going to put this very bluntly, he has what it takes to get all the way through and become Prime Minister?
I do. Not only because of his high intelligence, but also because of his independence.